will be Jeremy Affeldt, such a big late-inning weapon for Bruce Bochy.
And how about Jeremy Affeldt? His longest outing since July of 2012. Huge bridge in this game provided by Affeldt.
He goes 2 1/3, 1 hit. Tying run at third, 2 out, 9th inning. The 2-2, popped up, Sandoval in foul territory. Giants win! A World Series win for the San Francisco Giants for the 3rd time in the last 5 years.
Jeremy Affeldt was such a big part of those Giants World Series teams in 2010, 12, and 14. He spent half of his 14-year Major League career in the city by the Bay, and he and some of his teammates are being recognized again, re-recognized for their efforts there as they're being put onto the Giants Wall of Fame this summer. And Jeremy joins us from the homestead in Texas. Jeremy, good morning, man. Good to see you. Congratulations on this. I know that you take stock in all these honors and accolades that you've been given after you've retired, and this is a big one, man. Give us your thoughts.
Man, it is a big one. And I a lot of times I'm like, hey, it is, we're a team. We do what we do. We win World Series as a team. But this one here, I'll tell you what, when Larry Baird called me a few days ago, I teared up, because for me, I didn't realize how big of a deal it would be. I've been with some of the guys, Wilson and Vogelsong and Kane and all those guys that went into the Wall of Fame, and you're happy for them. You were just pumped for them. But when you get the call and they say they're doing it for you, and then these three other with Hav and Casilla and Romo, I actually got a little emotional with Larry, and I said, man, I really appreciate that because, setup men, middle relievers, that's not something we get a whole lot. And we're not going to go to the Hall of Fame. You're just not. There's no category for it. So for me to be able to receive this kind of an honor, even selfishly, I'll take it. And I'm very happy about it. And I'm very happy for the other three guys. And I'd never dreamed that this would happen. And it's been awesome to even get the call.
Jeremy, I got to go into, we just saw a little clip, obviously, right before you came on of the World Series. And you coming in and giving 2 1/3 at a time when, as a Giant, for the most part, you were, at least in the regular season, a lot of time a matchup guy. What was that like, having the experience of coming in that situation and getting to extend yourself that far into the game in such a huge spot and to be able to come through like that and obviously, win the World Series?
Yeah, you're just in the moment. You're right. That was never something that I was set up to do for a long time. I mean, Bochy, if I was in there for more than 20 pitches, he got nervous. So he didn't really want me out there very long. But to be able to go out in that situation and do that was you kind of get into that mode if you have to, right? Like there's nothing else to do. You got to get out. You got to get these outs. You got to get out and do your job. And for me, it was, I got caught up and I just focused through it. Did it hurt? No. Did it hurt after the game? Yes. A lot of throbbing in the arm. But I'll tell you what, you were just in that moment. And I tell you, in today's game, it's not going to happen because that little computer they look at all the time and talk about analytics, I will guarantee you did not say to leave me out there for 2 1/3 innings. I can promise you that. So, I just appreciate Boch and his old school mentality. That's why he won a World Series this year. He gets it. He understands it. And he knows who he's got to have in the game in certain situations. And he just knew that this was a perfect matchup for me to go that long into the game and get to Bum. And it worked out. It could have not worked out, but it definitely worked out right there. And I was pretty excited. I got a 3rd ring because of it. So it's pretty awesome.
I don't want to sound too sappy here talking about your career, but I think for any young pitcher who might be doubting themselves about the way their career trajectory is going, glance at your baseball reference page and you can see a guy who didn't have it figured out initially, who did figure it out, who had a great run in the big leagues. What were some of the keys for you, Jeremy? Because you bounced around a couple teams after you left Kansas City. What was the key to, quote, figuring it out?
It was a couple things. One, it was finding a role that I was comfortable in. It just kind of that role that I enjoyed. And 2, I needed someone to believe in me. Kansas City, it wasn't a knock on them. We just had a lot of stuff going on. They're bouncing everybody around. They're trying to figure everything out. Colorado, I go to Colorado, and they said, you're going to be a left-handed reliever. We need you to focus on that. And I struggled in 2006 when I got traded. It was probably one of the worst years. I mean, 2015 was probably my worst year, but I don't count that because I was retiring. But, 2006 was pretty tough. But I met with a guy named David Cook. He wrote a book called 7 Days in Utopia. There's also a movie made on that as a golf book by Richard Duvall, I believe, was in it. And he changed my entire view of how I mentally approach the game. And once I figured out how to just trust myself, trust why I do what I do, and have a plan and have a reason to have that plan, I could go out there with complete confidence and execute that plan. It didn't always work, but I figured out that from day to day, it changes. And sometimes I'm going to go out with a plan. I'm going to be convicted when I throw that ball. If it doesn't work, I'm going to go out the next day and I'm going to do it again. And I got to believe that the odds are in my favor. And as soon as I figured out mentally how to approach the game and to believe that I deserve to be on that mound facing every guy out there and I don't have to get beat by them, I can actually have the advantage. Knowing what pitches I have, why I throw that pitch, and how I throw that pitch. Once I started figuring that out, man, from 07, I met with David Cook at the end of 06 when I was just trying to figure out if I wanted to keep playing after that year. And he sat with me for 4 sessions, had me read this book and walked me through it. And man, you look at 07 to pretty much 2014, the rest of my career, it just was what it was. And I took everything that he had me do into every situation. And it was really big in the playoffs because it helped me focus through all the static noise of, thousands of media people and, the pressure, obviously, of the playoffs and the World Series.
You mentioned, trying to find your confidence, especially, as a young player. I got to ask you about your catcher in San Francisco because Buster Posey never seemed to have that problem. He came up in 09, had a little cup of coffee, a couple ABs, but 2010 was his first full season. Tell us about him as a young player and kind of his maturation process and what that meant to those teams that obviously ended up winning the World Series.
I'll tell you what, he is definitely he's an outlier, man. That guy, if he had a bad year, it's like 290, like that's not, it's a number, there wasn't really a bad year for that guy. Right. And he's super smart, super humble, and knows the game very, very well. And he can catch. I mean, the guy stole so many strikes for us on the outside corner. It was crazy, and he just knew how to set it up, and he understood hitters, and he was a good one, obviously, at that. So to have him behind the dish for me to go out there, I trusted him. I didn't shake him a whole lot. In fact, if I did, he usually shook his head and took a big deep breath and said, this ball is going to go about 50 feet and I'm going to have to jump block this pitch right here because, he knew it was the wrong pitch, But, him and I would have discussions and I would get frustrated. I said, why aren't you calling this pitch? And he's like, because it doesn't need to be thrown. And it was kind of a situation where I know that I have the head shake and I have the final say. And sometimes he'd let me do it. He would kind of be like, okay, or if we were on the same page, he'd come out and talk to me. But a lot of times I trusted him so much that if I wanted to talk to him about the pitch selection, I'd talk to him and we'd talk about it after, we'd talk about it before, and he would convince me. And I just trusted the guy with my life out there, and I didn't want to think. I wasn't a starter. I didn't have to overthink it. I needed to throw the whole kitchen sink at somebody. And we had great starters too, and he knew that. And he had worked those starters into that game so deep in that game, the hitters were already set up for certain pitches, knowing we were going to come in. And it kind of put us in that position. And in this Wall of Fame situation, really, I mean, you got to look at him. I mean, he's going to not, the Wall of Fame is like an entry level for that guy. That guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame, obviously. But for me to have that catcher out there helping us with that's a big reason why we're out there in this Wall of Fame situation, because of we trusted him and we went after it, and he set us up for success, just like Bochy and Righetti and Gardy did when they were coaching us.
So of all those 3 World Series teams, Jeremy, on which was there the highest personality freak show factor? Because I'm thinking of the 2010 bunch with Burrell and Huff, and I just remember the parade and some of the shenanigans on the cable car. Am I right? Was the 2010 team the freakiest?
I think it was. I mean, it felt like a reality TV show, it was just like the different personality. And Wheeze, don't forget Wheeze. Wilson, the beard. I mean, the guy thinks he has ninjas in his beard, come on, man. Like the stuff that was being said, thought of, you were out there, and it was such a quirky team to win it. It was just like, man, I could see why people did that Showtime show on us in a way, because it was like, this is just a very odd group of guys, and they were the misfits, and we had some absolute characters, and it almost didn't feel real at times. Like, you come into the clubhouse and you'd be like, Okay, what's going to go on today? I don't know if there's a thong being pulled out, by Huff. I don't know. I don't know what Burrow's going to walk around and do. You never know what Wilson's going to think is in his beard next. You just didn't know, So you just came in, but it relaxed us. We went out there and just did what we did and had a good time. I think 2012 was probably the most professional team that we had, just like overall. But the 2010 was definitely, wow. That's just one you can't even replicate, nor can you make up. It's like the Dumb and Dumber movie. You actually can't even make up that humor again. Like, it's just a one-time shot, It's unbelievable.
It's so good. It's among the many reasons why those teams are still so beloved. And I don't know that the Giants are ever going to put together a team that will be more beloved than that run that Jeremy was such a big part of. Dude, we ran out of time with you, man. We couldn't even talk about the beer brand, Free Roam. We see it behind you, what you're up to, podcasting. We appreciate the visit, man, and hopefully we can do it again. Congrats on the Wall of Fame.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate your time. That's awesome. I appreciate it.